Hi, friend. Welcome back to the Real Personal Branding Podcast. I am Lauren V. Davis. I'm a personal branding coach. I'm a small business consultant. I am a dog mom, a music lover, a coffee lover, and your enthusiastic supporter in creating a business of your dreams. A sustainable business, one you like, one that actually makes you happy, doesn't drain you. If you have been here for a while, you've been around, you've been listening to this podcast, you know that I love having honest conversations with entrepreneurs and creators who are building something meaningful. It's not just something that they're building to be known, right? It's not just something that they're building to get in front of people, but it's because they care, because we deeply care about the work that we do and the people that we serve. And today's guest fits that description so perfectly. Teresa Heath-Wareing is an international best-selling author, award-winning speaker, TEDx speaker, podcaster of a #1 rated podcast, and online business owner. She is also a marketing and business growth strategic coach who helps online business owners, course creators, membership owners, and coaches to grow their businesses to 6 and 7 figures. And today, Teresa and I are covering a topic that really comes up in almost every conversation I have with entrepreneurs, and that is visibility. We talk about what visibility really means right now. Like, why does it feel so uncomfortable to be seen, so uncomfortable to be visible? How can we approach it in a way that really feels like us, that feels kind of, not to be use an overused word, but that feels authentic? And Teresa also shares these practical tips and practical advice on how to become the go-to expert in your industry without completely burning out and losing yourself in the process. I know some of you who listen to this, some of all of us really, sometimes it's hard to be seen. Sometimes it's a struggle to be seen in such a noisy internet world, or when you're on stage where there's so many other speakers and it's your turn to stand up there and say like, hey, this is me, this is what sets me apart. My hope is that this episode is just going to give you immense clarity on this subject, and that you're going to walk away feeling so much more confident and so much more clear on how to be visible. So I'm so excited. Let's get into this. Welcome to the show, Teresa. Great. Welcome to the Real Personal Branding Podcast, Teresa. I'm so happy that you're here. Thank you for being here.
I am so excited to have this conversation with you. It feels like such a long time ago since we spoke. So it's going to be awesome to hang out with you for this podcast.
Yes. And I got to know you at the speaker dinner at Atomicon. We're both good friends with Andrew and Pete, who host this amazing conference in England in the summertime. If you've not heard of it, please look it up and go attend it. But I got to know you at the speaker dinner, and you were just one of the few people that I actually got to have a real conversation with. And it wasn't just like super surface level, not because people don't want to go deep, but it was like too many people to talk to, too many things to do. And so I just really appreciated our conversation. I was like, I really would love to get her on my podcast. And we talk about things in a very similar way. Like, we have very similar values when it comes to personal branding and gaining more visibility. And I just was like, this is perfect for the Real Personal Branding Podcast. But the first question I want to ask you is, how are you doing for real? Because this is the Real Personal Branding Podcast.
So I am doing okay at the moment. I am a 45-year-old woman, and my brain likes to turn off really regularly. And I think I'm just like, I think as time goes on in business and things, you start like, I'm starting to notice things and I'm like, how am I going to manage that? And how am I managing my energy? And like, I think as you change and get older, things change and we change. And I think I'm just in a real period at the moment of noticing, okay, I'm going to have to work with this or learn how to work with it. I was just saying to you, I've done a lot of travel and seeing lots of people, and I'm an extroverted introvert. So put me in front of people and I am like life and soul, but I can only take that for so long. And then I need to retreat. So it's just kind of, I don't know. I just think I'm in a very thoughtful place at the moment of like, how do I want this to work? How is it working? How can I make it work for me and my season of life right now?
I love that extremely real answer, because I think so many people like see only the highlight reel of like anyone
Hmm.
online, and it I feel like that's such a authentic answer of like this is honestly really what I'm feeling right now. I'm in a season of noticing. I'm
Yeah.
being really reflective about what I feel, and like I just love that because we have to take care of our brains and our minds as entrepreneurs and our bodies and like all of that. So thank you for sharing that. So a little bit about your background for people who are just coming to know about you from this podcast, people who don't know you yet, but maybe want to know more about you. Can you share a little bit more about how you started your career and how you transitioned into where you are now? I know that you kind of started in like this corporate marketing space, and now
Hmm.
you talk to entrepreneurs and you talk to people building their businesses and you talk to them about visibility. So give us a little bit
Yeah.
more of a background story of how you went from there to here, or your kind of your journey into that space.
Okay. I'll try and keep it short-ish because I like to talk. So we'll try and like keep this tight. But basically, I did a degree in marketing 20 years ago. And from that degree, I worked for 10 years in lots of different marketing roles. So I kind of joke that there's not much I haven't done or haven't seen. I think the only thing I've never done personally is TV advertising, but I've
Mm-hmm.
pretty much done everything else from a marketing point of view. And then I never wanted to be an entrepreneur. That was never like a thing that crossed my mind. Never had an intention of having my own business, although I was very ambitious. So I never stayed very long in roles. If it wasn't progressing, I would move. And I ended up being head of marketing for an agency, and I went through quite a life change. I ended up separating from my husband, becoming a single parent, and life just changed. And I decided that actually I needed a change. I was going to change my job. I was going to get another marketing role and basically just, have a fresh start. And I handed my notice in, but gave her lots of notice. And I started to look for other jobs, forgetting that I live in Shropshire, which is a fairly rural ish part of England. And there's not big, massive agencies and big, massive companies here. And I couldn't find another job. And I thought to myself, well, a friend of mine had said, would I do social media for them?
Mm-hmm.
So I agreed and I gave them a price and they said yes. And then I thought, okay, well, what if I can get like 5, 6, 7, 8 people to pay me the same? And it was
Yeah.
like the thought just wandered through my head. And it was as if my boss at the time kind of like had some psychic ability and thought, oh my God, she's going to start her own business, and basically asked me to leave, like on the spot. So I
Whoa.
had no savings, no partner, a house to run, a mortgage to pay, a car to pay, and a 3-year-old daughter at the time, 3 or
Wow.
4-year-old. And I had to earn money. So I basically just put myself out there, started doing done for you services, consulting, marketing. And although like, it was cool, obviously, that I had my own business, everyone thought I was mad, literally thought I was mad. Everyone kind of immediately went, well, if it doesn't work, you can get another job. And I was like, well, I haven't even started. Thanks for the faith. Anyway,
Give
I
me a
started
chance.
I know, right? Just 5 minutes even. So I started like getting picked up locally to speak, and I started offering up my time to basically, say to people I could help with social media and talk at local chamber events and that sort of thing. And then eventually it started to get picked up even more, and I discovered the online world. And I discovered that I would love the online world. I'd love the idea of doing one-to-many stuff, speaking in lots of places, like having a community. And basically, I by this point we got together with my husband, who I'm with now, and said to him, is there any chance I could effectively sack my clients? And he said, yeah. So I sacked them and completely changed over to an online business. And I've been doing that ever since.
Ah, I love it. And so tell me what you do with your online business now. Give us a little bit more context into what you do now.
So today, what I do is I help predominantly online business owners, course creators, membership, coaches, that sort of people, and I help them grow, launch, and sell their online offering. So the grow section is looking at their visibility and getting them to become the go-to person. Because if you're listening to this and the person that you aspire to be like, the chances are they just have a much bigger audience, or they're much more
Mm-hmm.
well known than you are. And then under the launch bit, we look at how they launch. So I'm a big fan of webinars. I love funnels. I love launch strategies. Like, I geek out on this stuff. And then under the sale bit, we look at things like, how do you actually sell with a sales page, and how do you do order bumps, and how do you do cross sells and upsells and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, it's basically, if people have got an online business, then I help them grow it.
Oh, love it. Okay. That's awesome. And now I want to kind of talk a little bit more through like some tactical stuff about all of that stuff. I think we're going to get into some visibility, some launch stuff. Do you feel like
Mhm.
there was a pivotal moment or experience though that shaped your personal branding journey in like building your own digital footprint?
I think I loved speaking, and I
Mm-hmm.
loved, like, my ego likes the admiration of being a speaker. Like, it loves nothing more than me standing on stage and people giving me applause and coming up and speaking to me afterwards. Like, genuinely love that. So I think for me, that was the point where I was like, this is how I could do it. I don't even think that it was
Uh,
conscious. I don't even think that I actually thought, I'm going to be a personal brand. I just, I am so passionate about what I do. I've been in marketing now for 20 years. I have a degree in it. I love what I do, and I love sharing that. So for me, that was just, it seemed so easy to just then speak and, do podcasts and have conversations like this. And I guess it isn't until I look back that I think, oh yeah, that would probably be the thing that started getting me the personal brand that I've got.
Yes, I love that. And I think that sharing the stage in front of an audience, in front of other people's audiences, in front of
Hmm.
people that you don't know gives you a really great path to getting to know them and opening that relationship with them
Yeah.
and building a relationship with them. And I love that you said that because I find that sometimes that is the thing that makes people feel like, okay, this is what I want to do, or like shows them the path to what they love. And for some people, it's having a podcast. And for some
Mm.
people, it is, this course that they created and it just really took off. And this is what made them so visible to people. And so we're going to talk a lot about visibility today. I love that you shared that.
Hmm.
What do you feel like are some of the most common mistakes that entrepreneurs or small businesses make when they're trying to become more visible online? Let's start there. What are some of the things that people do or they think they should do immediately that maybe are not necessarily what you would recommend?
So it's really interesting that you say this, because I've just been at an event. I'm an ambassador for Adobe, so I do events for them and speak for them. And I've just been at an event, and I had several people come up to me saying, I want to be a personal brand. How do I be a personal brand?
Ah,
And my first question then was, well, what do you do? And they were like, well, I'm not sure yet. And it's like, there's kind of problem number one. I think, yes, there are definitely people who can just somehow become a personal brand without really having a thing. But for most people, you need a thing. Like, I did marketing. I'm really good at marketing. I love talking about marketing. Like, and then over the years, I've niched down into the more online space and into the launching and the visibility part of it. However, I think it's like people wanting the fame without being a reason to be famous. Like, it's not,
yeah.
it's not like a singer who's amazing at singing and then got famous because of it. It's like, oh no, I just want to be famous. So for me, that's kind of like, I think if you're going out going, I really just want to be a personal brand, or I really just want to be known, that's probably not going to give you the longevity, or it's certainly not going to give you the credibility. Whereas what I do and what I'm trying to help business owners do is, the business owners who are so passionate about the thing they do, they are so good at the thing they do, they just need more people to see it. Someone said a quote the other day that was really good, and hopefully I won't mess it up, but something like, the most successful people aren't the best, they're the loudest. So I want those people who are the best, who are brilliant at what they do, who are so passionate and get results and are so awesome at their thing. I want to help them raise their visibility and get their voice heard. And I
Yeah.
think one of the very first mistakes I see those people make is thinking, why them? and thinking they don't have something to add.
Yeah, thinking that everything is so noisy already, why
Mhm.
would their voice matter?
Yeah,
And what do you
totally.
say to those people?
So, what I say to them is first off, we're not saying that you're the only voice. I think sometimes people think when they're going to put themselves out there that they are then effectively saying everyone else is wrong. And they're not. They're saying their point of view based on their experience, their history, their knowledge. Like, and all of us have a different take and a different angle to come at. And we deliver things in a different way. So not only are we not saying they're the only expert, we're saying we need a massive range of experts. We need a massive range of people to share their knowledge, their experience, because someone will look at me and go, I don't resonate with you. And that's fine. And they'll have to find someone else to resonate with, and they will find someone else to resonate with. And if you're sat in your industry thinking, well, I can't possibly do this because I'm too young, too old, too fat, too thin, too smart, too stupid, funny voice. I mean, I hear the funny accent thing all the time. Like people are, oh, listen to my voice. And I'm like, it doesn't matter. So if you are thinking, I can't see enough of me in this industry, maybe it's because you need to be the one to step up so that you give someone else permission. So
Yes.
I remember meeting Amy Porterfield years and years ago. And one of the first things she said to me, which was the irony was unbelievable. And she said to me that she used to be so nervous about getting on stage because she lived in a larger body and everyone that she saw didn't. And she was like, I don't belong here and I don't, fit here. And someone said to her, Amy, you need to get on stage so someone else looks at you and says, it's okay for me to do that too. And as she told me this story, I said to her, Amy, that was me.
Oh my
I
God.
needed to see someone like you to give me permission to say I can do it. And
Yeah.
I'm doing the same. And it, like I said, it might not be because you live in a larger body. It might be because you have a disability. It might be because there's no one of color in that space. It might be, I had this conversation with someone who was putting on an event and they had no one of color on the lineup. And I was like, what are you doing? And they're like, well, we just can't find anyone. I was like, well, you need to find someone because there might be a
Yeah.
reason there's not enough because you're not giving people of color a space to come on and do this in an event. And so I think for me, if you're not seeing enough people like you, and I've got people who have every walk of life and they are they have so much to offer and they might say it. So I've got a social media manager who helps. I can't remember how it was social media for grown-ups. That's what her business is called.
Love
Because
it.
she is, I'm gonna guess at about mid 50s, maybe late 50s. And she's like, I can't listen to a 20-year-old tell me how to use social media. And there are lots
Yeah.
of people of my age who don't resonate with that. So whereas she's in a very young, fast moving space, we need people like her. People need people like her. So for me, it's like you said, if you can't see someone that looks, sounds, seems, is like you, then maybe you need to be that person to give someone else permission to do that.
Yeah. And whenever you're on stage or whenever you're in front of people, you are representing other yous in the
Yes.
audience. You're a representative for people just like you who can look at you and say, huh, maybe I can do
Yeah.
this. Maybe I can take this on. Maybe I could actually start a business. And
Yeah.
that is such a beautiful place to be and it's such a beautiful responsibility to hold. So thank you for that reminder. Do you
Thank
feel
you.
like there are key components of visibility strategy or like a framework of like, okay,
Mm.
you need to have these three things to be super visible to other people? And what steps would you take if you were just starting to look into this more?
So I think this is the point almost exactly. The point is you need a strategy. I think people look at, you and I both spoke at Atomicon and I have been very fortunate that I've spoken every single year and I'm speaking again next year. And other than Andrew and Pete who run the event, no one else
No one
does
else
that.
has. Yeah.
No, which is awesome. And I'm obviously really over the moon about it. But I think people look at it and go, well, I want that. And it's like, do you know all the things I did before I got this? Do you know how many times I had to show up, how many events I had to do, how many,
Yeah.
like in the UK, we've got like play barns, like soft play with kit for children. And I used to go, there was a group over here called Biz Mums. And basically it was mums with young children who had businesses. And they would have their meetings in a children's play barn, in a soft play thing. And I would be sat there with my laptop and three mums talking through how to use Instagram, or talking to them about why Twitter was good at the time. Or like, I did that. And I think sometimes they think, oh, I'm just going to get on the big stages. I'm just going to appear on the big stuff. Whereas what they don't realize, or is that it'll just come straight to them. And it doesn't. So in the early days, you have to be really strategic. You have to put yourself out there, and you have to go after the opportunities. And for me, yes, you want to be brave, and yes, you want to step up a little bit. However, you don't want to just go for a TEDx if you've never spoke before in your life. You need to start with the smaller things, get comfortable with that, move a step up, get comfortable with that, move a step up. You need to be really strategic. So, for instance, one of the things that I teach is, first off, you need to know what you're going to say. What are you going to talk about? And this can be a massive hurdle, because people think, well, I don't know, and they haven't got the confidence to come up with stuff. So the very first thing I get them to do is come up with 3 possible areas in which they can talk super confidently about. So what is it to do with your business that you could talk confidently about? So, for instance, I've got a dietitian that's in my world, and a pediatric dietitian, and she talks about a concept called food chaining, which is basically, if you can get them to eat one thing and then you expand it. I don't know, I'm not a dietitian, but
okay.
like, and if I said to her, explain to me what food chaining is, she could do it in a heartbeat, like super, super easy. Whereas, so it might be that, and it might be talking about fussy eating or something else. So think of 3 areas that you can talk about, then come up with a possible talk title. Now, it doesn't mean that you have to actually go and do a talk. It just means come up with a possible talk title and come up with questions. Like, what would I ask you? One of the things I really push is getting on podcasts. Obviously, we have podcasts. We like going on other people's. We like talking. So for me, it's super easy. But for me, it is one of the easiest things, because the responsibility of a good podcast episode is with the host. And I say this to people all the time. And if they're nervous coming in to be interviewed, I say, it's my job to make sure this is a good interview, because it's my podcast. So if I think you're waning or going off like down a rabbit hole, it's up to me to pull it back and to make sense of it. So that's the thing. I'm like, what questions could they ask you where you could confidently respond? And even just doing that exercise makes them go, oh, yeah, no, I do know a lot about this. So I get them to come up with a talk title. I get them to come up with a description, like you would if you were pitching for a speaking gig. You would have to say, what's the audience going to get from it? And I get them to come up with questions that someone could possibly ask you around that subject. The other thing I get them to do is to come up with a bio. Now, the worst thing is if I show them my bio and they're like, well, I haven't got any of those things. And it's like, no, neither did I. Like, you have to use the best possible selling job you can do at the point you're at. And the more you do, the more will come, and the more you'll be able to add to that bio. So, and also, I talk a lot about sexy bios and sexy titles and all this, because it has to be attractive. But like with the bio, make it sound the best it could possibly sound. So, for instance, with the dietitian, one of the words that we used in her bio was that she's a sought after speaker. Now, there's no actual definitive rule around what that means. So I'm not saying she's lying, because she's absolutely not, because she's spoken in lots of places, but people can make it, just using words like that makes you go, oh, okay. Now, obviously, if you've never spoke before, do not put your sought after speaking. You've got to be truthful. Exactly. But and I have another student who has a podcast. So we'll use the word like a popular podcast. Well, it is to the people who listen to it, and she has listeners. So again, that's not a lie. A global podcast, she has people who aren't in the UK listening to the podcast. That is not a lie. So you have to use these kind of words to make, because the idea is, and you will know this, and I know this, having a podcast, I've done 370 something episodes of my podcast now, and we probably get 1 or 2 applications a day to come on the podcast.
Same.
So I read a ton of applications. So it's got to stand out. So if someone says something that I'm like, oh, okay, that's interesting, or I like that language behind it, or they pitch a title that's really good, or some questions that I'm like, that's, I hadn't thought about that angle, or, if they take some of the hard work out of it for me, I am more likely to say, yes, let's go ahead and do it, or at least more likely to open up my kind of time to have a look at who they are. So it's having those things prepared, because not only do you help the people you're going out and reaching out to, but you feel more prepared. You feel like you're not just pitching on a podcast and thinking, I don't know what the hell I'm going to say. So that's the kind of like first step of it. And then it's a case of, well, where could you go and pitch? And again, don't go for like the top rated podcast straight off the bat if you've never done a podcast interview. Start low, start small, start with your own connections. So one of the things that I've done in my world, when I got guests on my podcast, my first two interviews when I did my podcast all those years ago was Pat Flynn and Amy Porterfield. And I worked so freaking hard to get those two. When I got those two, I used them beyond belief. So I took Amy's name and went to Jasmine Star and said, Jasmine, Amy's been on the podcast. Will you come on? She said yes. I went to Rick Mulready at the time, who was doing some ads for her. Rick, would you come on the podcast? Amy's been on. Yes. Then once I've got those names, I look at their network. So do the same for your own visibility. Who do you know? And could you go and speak to them and say, have you been on a podcast? Could you recommend me? Or have you got a group that might want me to talk about XYZ? So starting with that kind of network is great. And then the visibility piece becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. So the more you do, the more you post, the more you share, the more people see you, like me at Adobe speaking, the more likely they are to go, do you want to come and speak here? Do you want to come on my podcast? Do you want to do this? Because you are being perceived as the expert, and you are being perceived as someone who knows what they're talking about for that thing. I realize
Yes.
I've just thrown a ton of stuff at you, so I'm
Oh,
sorry.
no, I love it. I have so many thoughts, and I was like, nope, I want to let you keep going because gold is coming out of your mouth right now. One thing that I just wanted to share is like, even if you start small on a small podcast, like what you just said, like, okay, maybe my
Mhm.
friend has a podcast, and but I know she has listeners. Maybe it's not the same amount of listeners that Amy Porterfield has, but like
Nope.
it's listeners.
Yeah.
Please always keep in mind that everyone is an influencer in their own community. So any person
100%.
who has every person has a personal brand. And if
Yeah.
that person is producing a podcast and they have listeners, even if there's 20 people listening, those 20 people are listening to every word. You're having an intimate conversation
Mm.
with them while they're in the shower, while they're driving to
Yeah.
work. Like this is like very, very, very intimate. And it doesn't matter if there's 20 people or 200 people, because if you had 20 people's captive attention with you in a coffee shop right now, you would
Oh,
absolutely love that. And you
amazing.
would have so much fun with that. And you would have impacted 20 people's lives. That's huge. And I think that
And
I really liked that you brought that up because I think that's very important.
it's such a good point as well, because I think people immediately go, but I want the big audiences. I want to go on the really fancy podcasts. I want to speak on the really cool stages. And actually, what's super fascinating is I did my summit at the beginning of the year, and I offered affiliate to all the speaker. And once the summit was over, obviously we did a lot of the kind of KPIs and what happened and who did what. And it was the people with the smallest audience that got the biggest return. And
Uh-huh.
this is where people think, oh no, I want millions. It's not about the number, it's about how engaged they are and who they are. And like you said, the people who are listening to our podcasts over the millions that Jenna Kutcher gets or Jasmine Star gets. Like, I'm not saying that they're not engaged, they
Of
are,
course.
but
Yeah.
like there's an investment level that when you're smaller, you tend to have a much more loyal, a much more like tighter audience. And I just think for me, I really don't like the ego attached with like I'm only going to go on big stuff. So I will say
Right.
pretty much yes to anything. If it's my audience, if I'm free, if I don't have to do, especially a podcast interview, I would never say no to a podcast interview because I literally
Yeah.
get to do my most favorite thing in the world. So I'm not bothered about how many listeners they have or what reach they have. I am just more than happy to get on and have a conversation. And you know what's also super interesting? So quite a while ago, maybe a year or two back ago, I was reaching out to, because I still do proactive outreach to podcasts. Not obviously all the time, but when we get quiet or when I get some free time, I'm like, let's do some more. And I reached out to a lovely, amazing called a lovely lady called Megan, who she has a podcast called the Self Start Her podcast. And it's about obviously starting business and women in business in particular. And she was a new mum, so very much around that. And I reached out to her and I said, is there any chance you're looking for a guest on your podcast? And could I be your guest? And she was like, oh my goodness, yes, that would be amazing. Went on, was her guest, got on with her famously, kept in touch with her. And her podcast at the time was very small because it was brand new. She didn't have an audience particularly, kept in touch with her, absolutely loved her. She now coaches with me. So I'm her coach. So I have directly gained a customer from being on her podcast. And I have got a customer through her. So I have two one-to-one coaching clients that pay me considerable amount of money to work with me because I reached out to her podcast. That would never have happened if I'd taken one look at it and gone, oh yeah, it's not big enough for me.
Oh,
Like, so
such a
just
good point.
don't think about that. Don't think about those numbers.
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much for saying that. Okay, so once somebody is on a podcast or once someone is on a stage or even a virtual summit, like sometimes, you get asked to be on
Yep.
virtual summits and it's
Yep.
a good way to share your expertise, or even if you're getting into speaking but you've been really practicing your talk, this is a great way to
Really good.
practice being
Yeah.
on stage, right? Once you're there, what would you share with people to help them convert those people that are watching them, that are gaining their expertise into their orbit, into their atmosphere,
Yeah.
become part of their universe? Like, tell me a little bit more about what you share with people and how people should move through that journey from like seeing them for the first time into being part of their world.
Yeah. So I think, again, this can depend on the size of the event, the size of the audience, the summit, the podcast. Like, so this is kind of a standard of what I would try and do. But like if you do it once and you think like one person's opted into my email list, it's not worth it. It's not necessarily not worth it. It just that didn't hit that particularly well with that audience. So just keep doing it. But one of the things I encourage people to do is whatever those topics are. So go back to those 3 talk topics. What is it that you could offer me as a freebie or a download or some kind of lead magnet that I could then follow up with? So, for instance, I've done some talks recently about self-sabotage because I do sometimes talk about a bit about mindset. I'm moving away from that again now, but I have a self-sabotage talk. And at the end of my self-sabotage talk, I give them access to a replay effectively. It was me doing the self-sabotage talk at my own summit and a workbook that goes alongside it so they can do it in
Mm,
their own time. Because some of the tactics I give them are not like, do this one thought now and you're fixed. It's like they have to come back to it and come back to it and come back to it. So if someone sat there and listened to me talk or on a podcast, listened to me talk about self-sabotage and they get to the end and I say to them, hey, if you want this thing, why wouldn't they if they liked what they listened to? Now, if self-sabotage wasn't important to them, then that's fine. They won't, and that's okay. But the idea is you always have something at the end where you can go, this is how you can proactively get on my list. Obviously, you're not going to use those words, but you give them something of real value. So, yes, you can say, come and find me on Instagram or go and check me out
mhm.
on LinkedIn or whatever. But in an ideal world, if someone, it's almost like, how do you go deeper with them? If someone has listened to you talk about, you know, food chaining, for example, on the dietitian's example, and you then say, I'm going to give you a checklist on how to food chain or a step
Yeah.
by step on how to food chain with your child, why wouldn't they want to download that?
Yeah.
Like they would. It would be so helpful to them. And especially on podcasts. Like for me, even though it's a podcast is a really weird one because in some ways it's much harder to get a listener to do something because I don't know about you guys, and please come and let us know. Like I tend to listen. My phone is propped up in my bathroom where I'm doing my
Mhm.
makeup, right? And that's when I listen to audiobooks and podcasts. Or not that I drive very much, I have to say, anymore because I work from home. But if I drive somewhere, then I might listen to an audiobook or a podcast. So in some ways, it's actually quite a hard thing to get a listener to take action. But in another way, it's super easy because if you've just listened to someone give you 6 steps on how to do something and you say, oh, and go to whatever URL it is, and
Right.
there's the checklist, then great, because I haven't been able to fully take in everything, but I know I can go and get this ready done for me thing. So it's so important. And again, if you're speaking on stage, it's a, QR code on your slides. Like you need to say, if you liked this, this is your next step, or this is how
Yes.
I summarize it, or this is how I give you the next thing to move forward.
This is your next step. That is a great way to put it. I find that the biggest objection I hear from people I work one on one with or people that I talk to in my masterminds about creating a resource like this is that they feel like they will feel slimy or pushy by sharing that resource
Yeah.
with them. Do you feel like that is a limiting belief or self sabotage, as you talk about? And tell me a little bit more about that because I think that that would kind of, the way that you might put it, will ease some people's minds.
Totally. Like it's so funny because obviously I talk and teach on this stuff. So I will often go, this is very meta, but I'm doing this to you right now. Like, so at the end of this podcast, I have a lead magnet, a freebie that if you like to talk this thing that I could recommend you, right? Totally meta, totally weird. However, I think the way you've got to look at it is you're just offering it up. You're not making
Right.
them take it. You're not charging them. You are trying to
Mm-mm.
help someone more. Now, we're not stupid, right? Especially in the business space, business to business, which is predominantly who I deal with. You are not stupid. If you get on my email list, I am at some point, whether it be in 2 weeks' time, 2 months' time, or 2 years' time, going to say, would you like to buy this thing from me? Obviously, we're all in business, but you get the choice of whether you stay and listen to that. If people will sometimes opt in for a freebie and disappear, they're not your customers.
Sure.
And the other
Yeah.
thing is, I had a great, oh man, it was brilliant testimonial the other day. One of my students came on. I have various different programs that I help people with. And one of them in my accelerator program came on and said, I had a discovery call today with a new customer that is going to come on board. And do you know how they found me? And I was like, no. And she said, someone else downloaded my lead magnet from something. She'd been on a podcast, she'd given the lead magnet, they downloaded it, they sent the actual lead magnet to someone else. So this person wasn't even on her list, but it
Right.
was so valuable, which again is the key thing. It has to be valuable. It can't be just a load of rubbish. It was so valuable. She sent it to someone else and went, you should look at this. I think you'll find it useful. She then obviously took the look at the lead magnet, found who created it, and took her on as a client. Like
Wow. Yeah.
unbelievable. So it's a case of you are just offering to help, and it's got to be good. That's the other thing. Me, we have done a ton of things. We have downloaded a ton of lead magnets where it's like, this is a load of rubbish. You
Hmm.
promised me one thing, you have definitely not delivered on it. It's got to be good. Like, make it
Thank
good. So
you. Thank you. Thank you. Yes.
because if it's not, then yeah, you are, you rightly feel a bit like, oh, I'm really setting people up here. But if it's genuinely good, great. And if people want to stay on your list, great. If they don't, no worries, they're not your customer. So I think, and you're just offering it, you're not making anybody take it. It's their choice. They get to do it if they want, they don't have to.
Okay. Yes. 1000%. And we both have I have downloaded like free resources before that I'm like, oh my gosh, I should never have imposter syndrome again.
Uh,
It's
like
so
totally.
bad.
And paid. I've
Oh,
actually
yes. Yes.
paid
Yes.
for someone was doing like a 90-day strategy thing, and I was doing 90-day stuff. And I was like, oh, I'm just really interested to see what this looks like. And
That's
actually,
why
I
I
wanted
download
it for
things too. Like,
myself.
okay, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, and because we
I want
teach
to
it, sometimes
improve.
we need
Yeah.
someone else to kind of help us. And I downloaded it. And oh my actual Lord, like, and it was like $90 or something. I wouldn't have even given a freebie away like that. It was awful. Whereas I know I put my heart and soul into
Same.
everything I do, it's going to be good. Like, and that's my only thing. And if someone does download it and thinks, oh, I'm gonna get it and then unsubscribe, when they download it and go, oh no, this is really good. Like, they're not going to unsubscribe, are they? Like, so
Nope.
make it good and then you won't feel bad.
So here's my question then. How do you find the thing that your audience really needs? And like, how do you get
Mm,
really, really good and detailed about the thing that your audience needs so that your free resource is good? Because I can imagine some people are listening to this right now being like, well, I don't know if mine is good enough. And I don't want you to feel like
yeah.
that either. I want them to feel empowered to
Yeah.
create this. So how do we do the research to make sure that our audiences are like getting the download that's going to make them say, wow, this is exactly what I needed right in this moment?
So I just want to address one thing before I talk about this. The sheer fact that if you're listening to this now and you're thinking, I don't know if mine's good enough, I am telling you, It is, right? The
Thank you.
sheer fact you
Yes.
even question
Consider
yourself
it.
says it's good. The main thing that I do, and I have done many sessions and courses and workshops on lead magnets. It's a real thing that I like talking about. And I can promise you 99.9% of the lead magnets I review, they give them too much. They are more than someone needs. So the chances are yours is great. One thing I would say is start from the first step. That's where people often go wrong. They immediately jump into the big stuff. So let's say you are talking about, one of my clients does ManyChat, and her lead magnet was like talking about all the ManyChat funnels and flows and all this you can have. And I'm like, no, 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 no. You are jumping way too ahead here. Like, bring me right back to the beginning and tell me the first two steps I need to get going with ManyChat, or to get going with chatbots, or even what are chatbots? Now, your external content. So she might go on and do a talk. In fact, I'm fairly confident she has a talk that is, how do you get more engagement and sales using social media? Like,
Right.
quick
Yeah.
answer, ManyChat. So she will do her whole a whole talk or a whole interview about how effective chatbots are. And then if you want to understand a bit more about how they work, then that would be her lead magnet. So one, don't give them too much, because you're going to overwhelm them. And then they're going to be like, okay, I think you're way too ahead for me. Keep it as simple as possible and give them a quick win. People
Yes.
want, like, what people want more than anything is the magic pill, right? If you said to me, I could take a pill tomorrow that would make me half the size I am and my skin permanently glowing and beautiful and never have a bag under my eyes again, I would take it in a heartbeat, because of course you would. And that's the same with our business. If I said to you all today, I've got one hack that can make you millions tomorrow, you'd be like, yes, please. I'd like to know what that hack is. Now, we all know that's never the case. There is never one thing. However, there are always quick wins in our business. So give them the quick win, give them the small thing, because again, if you're giving them a quick win, then they're going to go, oh, this person's good. Like, you didn't waste my time. Instead of saying, here are 50 ways in which you can make £10, like, just tell me 3 of the top ways to make £100,
Right.
rather than all of those many ways. So start it simple, give them a quick win. And the other thing that is so effective right now is do it for me, right? And I know that sounds crazy, but do what you can for someone else. So, for instance, in the freebie that goes along with me talking about visibility, one of the things I do is I give them a script that was sent to me that was a really effective script for someone to get on my podcast.
Oh,
So effectively,
great.
I am giving you a script of how you can approach someone else's podcast and say, please, can I come on your podcast? Now, yes, you aren't going to be able to just literally lift it and use it. You are going to have to edit it. You are going to have to, and obviously I've left gaps and things where it's like, you need to add these bits in. However, I have done a chunk of the work for you. And those kind of lead magnets go down so well. So a checklist, a kind of, here's some prompts, here's some things, like anything that takes a bit of time and effort off me having to do it, brilliant, all day long for a lead magnet. So those sort of things are really, really effective.
This has been such a gold mine interview. Thank you so much for sharing all of this with us. I feel like there's so many little things that people can do immediately after pressing stop on this interview, or, you know,
Yeah.
going about their day. I'm sure people have great ideas. I know I have ideas just from talking to you and reimagining some of the things that I've been doing. I'm like, oh, I could probably do that a little better. And so thank you so much for that. My last question that I try to ask everyone on the show is, if you had to bust some kind of myth for people about visibility, about showing up, about being more well known, what myth would you bust for them? What would you say? Like, I got to set the record straight on this.
But there is a strategy behind it, that people think it's like virality. It's like, oh, I just got found. Like,
Uh,
or, oh, I just got picked up. No, 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 no. Like, yes, one or two people might have just somehow, it's a bit like, like when people are models and it's like, oh, I just saw them walking down the street, right? There's like
yeah.
probably one or two models that actually get found that way.
Right.
The rest
Right.
of them absolutely bust their backside off to
Yes.
become a model. That's the case of visibility. And also the people who you look at and think, oh my God, it's just so easy for them, because look at the size of their audience, look at who they know, they didn't start there. Like, everyone started from zero. Everyone started day one. It's just the people who were tenacious and consistent and kept showing up and kept putting themselves. And basically, every time they got a no, because you will get a ton of them. So be ready for that. You just brush yourself down and go again, and brush yourself down and go again. So it's not like an overnight success thing. You do have to work at it. But it's worth it.
There's some phrase like, it took me 10 years to be an overnight success or something like that. Yes.
Totally.
Just like
That's
that.
it. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being on here. This was such a great interview, and I am so happy to have you here, and I really just appreciate your time.
Thank you, Lauren. It's been so much fun. I've really enjoyed it.
Okay, I loved that. That conversation with Teresa just gave me so much to think about, and I really love how she frames visibility. It's not always something that's loud and performative, but it's really something that's so rooted in who you are and in genuine connection. Something that stood out to me is that visibility really starts with knowing the deepness of who you are, like knowing who you are and who you are in your business, not trying to be everyone or everywhere. If you want to learn more from Teresa, I recommend you check out her free resource. You can find it in the link inside the show notes, or head to teresaheath-wareing.com/visible. Grab her free resource for sure on growing your visibility and becoming the go-to expert in your field. And thank you for listening to the Real Personal Branding Podcast today. If this episode resonated with you, please, please, please share it with a friend, share it online, share it on Instagram or on LinkedIn or anywhere that you like to talk about podcasts you're listening to. You have no idea how much that helps me build a community of business owners just like us who are growing their brands, who are doing it in every day, in and out, every single hour of every day, thinking about how to make their business stronger, how to make it more sustainable. I would appreciate it if you shared it with somebody else today. I am Lauren V. Davis. Thank you for being here, and I will see you next time.